Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Yasharol and Yahudah, grafted in Gentiles into the body of Hamashiach. Specifically to the Hebrews. Listen, Yasharol and Yahudah, you Hebrews. We are running after Torah, the Torah of truth, the Besorah of truth, remembering that we are the chosen people of Yasharol, called to keep his Besorah throughout our generations. We're not Christians, we Hebrews. We're remembering the Torah of truth. We're remembering the Besorah of truth. We're remembering what Yahuah has said to us in reference to his Besorah of truth. We are Hebrews. Listen, you're listening to we the people of the book broadcast, and it's going down. It's Shabbat. It's the Shabbat service. It's the Shabbat lesson. Acknowledging right now that Yahuah has called me to wake up Jacob. Yes, to quicken by the Ruach HaKodesh through the Besorah of truth to give life. The Besorah of truth is life to those who have an ear to hear. Listen. Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I pray right now that you would take the reins of my lips and the rein of my tongue and reign. The Besorah that you have given Yahusha has given me, and I'm giving it to your people. You have given me your Ruach HaKodesh of truth. Yahusha said after that, the Ruach HaKodesh is to come upon me, I would be his witness. Yahuah, I declare that I am your witness in the earth. I witness to the Besorah of truth. I witness to the Torah of truth. I witness to the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I am a Hebrew. I am of the tribe of Yahudah. Yahuah, I have been called to deliver your Besorah of truth, and the words which you've given me, I am giving them. And by the Ruach HaKodesh, my prayer is that they would receive them. Now, in the name of Yahusha, I speak a word of Yahuah over all those that are under the sound of my voice, that desire the Ruach HaKodesh and who have yet to receive it. I say, if ye believe, you can receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, because it's available to all those who ask and receive. Now I say ask and receive. I agree with you in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach that you are receiving the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. Now I am, by the power of the Ruach, to lay my hands on you. Yurabasa. As Paul did it, as Peter did it. Let's get to there. Receive ye the Ruach HaKodesh. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Now Yahuah, I pray, and everyone under the sound of my voice would receive your Besorah of truth and your Torah of truth. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, Yahuah. Listen, we're listening to I Got Some Truth by none other than the pastor John J. Tatum. The song is entitled We Are Hebrews, right? We're Hebrews. I don't own the rights to this music. We're running after the Torah now. We're seeking his commandments. We who are his people, called by his name. He declared if we humbled ourselves and pray and seek his face. Seek his face through Yahusha HaMashiach. He said he would forgive our sins and heal our land. Yahuah is establishing his L's. Right? He's establishing his L's. Yahuah is establishing his L's. Hallelujah. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen. You got to remember. Hebrews, Yasharol and Yahudah, you got to know You Hebrew. Listen. Yahuah, Yahuah, Yahuah. Listen, John J. Tatum, once again, I got some truth. I don't know the rights to this music. We're Hebrews. Listen, we're Hebrews. We Hebrews. Urabasa. Listen. He's given us the Besorah, the Torah of truth. He was the Torah made flesh. He was the word of Yahuah made flesh. He is the word of Yahuah made flesh. Listen, listen, listen. We going in. Listen, understand that we are bruised. We are a people that are called by his name. Listen, he gave the El, right? He gave Adam and Havah, right? The Ruach HaKodesh to be Els in the earth, to establish his kingdom in the earth. Yahuah has appointed a people, right? Right, he has appointed a people. He has chosen a people out of a people to be his heritage. A people who have suffered wicked atrocities. A people who he has not forgotten. Listen, yes, Yahuah has come and delivered the Besorah of truth to the Gentiles as well, but not at the exclusion of having a people. Yahuah has been gracious in showing salvation, Yeshua, to the other nations, that people that he have called or chosen out of that nation. But listen, he has a people and he hasn't forgotten them. And out of the people, he has a remnant. Because even within the nation, there are those who aren't going to receive this Besorah. There are going to be people that don't walk in this Torah. There are going to be people who don't receive this Ruach HaKodesh, and they will be lost. They will be lost. But Yahuah got a people. He has a people. He's able to raise up a nation out of rocks. Yahusha has a people. He has a people. And he has a people that are called by his name. They bear his name. Yaakov, Yehuda, Galiyl bear his name. We bear his name. We are the nation of Yasharal and Yahudah. We going in. Listen, as you well know, we have been in the first epistle of Yahuah, right? We left off at that third chapter, but Yahuah has caused me to expound more deeply in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? As it relates to us being elves in the earth. And again, for a brief recap, Yahuah has established a kingdom from the foundations of the earth. And man, Adam and Havah, were to execute his authority in his kingdom on the earth as elves. Right? Hasatan, who is the accuser of the brethren, has been thrown down. He wanted to exalt himself against the Most High. He felt like because of how splendid he was, right, in that Yahuah had created him with an elegance and a flair that most of the Malachines did not possess. The angels, right? He was arrayed in stones. He wore the ephod. He was the high priest in the Shamayim. Everything on the Retz is after the order of the Shamayim. Look, he was a high priest. Commanded all the angels. Everything was under his authority except Yahuah, Yahusha, and the Ruach HaKodesh, of which he wanted to be an El. Now, he was created, right? He was created by Yahuah, Yahusha, the Ruach. They created him. But he felt like he was better than the creator, and he wanted the worship that was given to the creator. So, he usurped his place and attempted a coup. He was miserably thrown down. Yahuah did not destroy him, but he cast him down. He took away his seat. He took away his position. He took away his authority, right? And he was on the arets, right? He was in the sea, the marine kingdom. He was there. And as Yahuah established the arets again up out of the sea, right? Hasatan was there, right? We know this because he presented himself in the serpent to Eve, accusing Yahuah before her, right? Right? He accused Yahuah before. Has Yahuah said that you shall not eat of any of the trees that are in the garden? The accuser, right? She says the Torah. No, Yahuah said we can eat of all the trees in the garden except the one that's in the midst of the garden. That's the tree of good and evil. We are not supposed to touch that, right? Satan convinced her, right, to take it. He tantalized her. He used crafting cunningness, right? He seduced her into believing something that was an untruth, right? She was already an El. There was no need for her to know good and evil. She had everything that she needed to subdue the heaven, to operate on the arets as sovereign, as elves over Hasatan, right? Hasatan's design was to regain the arets, right, and have the sea kingdom and rule over everything and have it all answer to him. That was Hasatan's scheme, right? And he of course, got Eve to do it. And she passed it to Adam. Now, had Adam not ate of the apple, right, this whole situation would have never occurred because Yahuah, Yahusha, and the Ruach made Adam first. And Adam was established as the chief ruler, the chief El on the arets. His wife was taken from him. So in all reality, she had authority in the earth, but he yet still was chief El of Yahuah in the earth. She got him to eat the apple. Hasatan was applauding her efforts because she was cast down just like he was. But this is the thing, right? He received her power in the arets. Yeah. And in exchange, he made her a violator of the Torah of Yahuah and caused sin to pass on all mankind. Right? Right. The order of the Els was given, yielded, was handed over to Hasatan. Hasatan subtly put the kibosh right on her, when in that reality, Yahuah had called Adam and Havah to put the kibosh on the arets, in everything in the arets, to have dominion in the heavenlies, or where the animals in the air fly, right, in the heavenlies, right, and on the earth and in the sea. Listen, but they yielded it. And Yahuah has always looked to reestablish his kingdom on the arets, right? Now, he knew at the time that Adam and Havah had fell that Yahusha was going to have to come. Yahusha knew this. Yeah. Him, the Father, and the Ruach HaKodesh had already understood it, right? At the time in which Yahuah questioned, right? Because Yahuah knew that Adam and Eva had fell the moment she took of the apple. As the moment she handled it, Yahuah said she broken the covenant. Then she ate it and gave it to Adam, and he waited. Because he could have moved in the coolness of the day after Ava had ate the apple, right? Because we don't know the duration of time in which she took to pass it to Adam, right? But we know this. Yahuah didn't appear until Adam had eaten the apple. Yeah, he didn't appear to Adam had eaten the apple. And had Adam refused the apple, he would have appeared instantaneously and brought a judgment on Ava. She probably would have ceased to exist. Oh yeah, because Adam did not yield his authority, right? But because he did yield his authority, Yahuah came, and he declared judgment. And Hasatan was judged. He had to slither as a snake in the dust of the earth, right? The seed of the woman, right, would bruise his head and he would bruise his heel. Yahusha HaMashiach. He was already prophesied. He knew he was going to come. And, as you know, Yahuah's continued to try to establish a kingdom in the earth. He was doing a test run, if you will. Because a test run. Yeah. He wiped out the earth. Right? Cleaned it, right? Because it became deceitfully, desperately wicked, right? Wicked. Hasatan, he had angels that made the decision to leave their first estate and have sexual intercourses with the sons of men, creating a race of giants, Nephilim, and it's like 3 different types, I think. Right, and they wreaked havoc on the earth. They taught women and men witchcraft and sorcery, right? Taught them how to make weapons, how to kill and take life. Yeah, taught them all this stuff. But Yahushua said, no, this has got to stop. So he deluged it. He put the kibosh on it by a deluge, right? Water came up, right, from out of the ground. And flooded the entire earth. Right? And the only that was left was Noah and his 3 sons. And from them Yahuah established the Eretz again. And from the lineage of Shem, he chose a man whose name was Abraham to place his covenant in. To establish a people, right, in the earth that would serve in his kingdom, right? And this people was Yitzhak, Yaakov, right? The 12 tribes, right? Yosef, right, was the first king runner. I mean, the first one. He was second only to Pharaoh in Egypt, right? But after he died, Joseph who? Yeah. They went into bondage, right? And Yahuah, right, had the plan. The bondage was necessary. Because he had to show a people that he was their El. A people that he had a covenant with, their father. He had to deliver them by his mighty hand. And he had to make this people an El. Yeah. This man, this Moshe, an El to Pharaoh after during the time in which he was putting the kibosh on Egypt, right, to let his people go. And this man, Abraham, was an El to Pharaoh. He was beginning to establish his kingdom. He was going to subdue and to conquer. He took a people, a nation, an army, a mixed multitude out of Mitzrayim, right, and gave them a Torah. Right? The seed of Yahuah, the seed of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, the 12 tribes became the seed of Yahuah. It became his heritage. They belong to him. And because they belong to him, right, he had to establish his kingdom in them. He chose them over all other nations. Not because they were better, but because he had a covenant with a man. A man that he knew would not stagger at his promises through unbelief, but was strong in emunah, being fully persuaded of what this Elohiym, this El Elyon, this El Shaddai had promised. He was well able to perform. He had a covenant with this man and his seed. So we have the nation who leaves Mitzrayim, that is still being purged from the wickedness and the influence of the Mitzrayimites, the Egyptians, who still want to hang on to their gods, their cows, and to purge them. Had to purge them. He had to purge them, and he did. He 40 years they wandered. 4 years. He caused them to die out. And he raised up a nation after their offspring under the leadership of Yahusha. Yahshua took them into the land and conquered. Then he passed the mantle on to the judges, and the judges had one to rise up in the form of Shimshon. He destroyed their enemies. And then it eventually got to the point where the people said, look, we want a king just like everybody else. So they got Saul. They didn't want the judges no more. The priests were wicked. Hophni and Phinehas, they were wicked. They wanted a king. Yahuah gave them one. Gave him Saul. Put his Ruach HaKodesh in Saul. Saul didn't want to obey it. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. And because he did, Yahuah took his Ruach from him and gave it to a man called Dawid, who was after his own heart, who would be passionate for his love for Yahuah. And of course, Dawid had his faults. But Yahuah used him because he was a repentant man. He understood sorrow and repentance. And Yahuah used him to put the kibosh down on all those that were in the earth. He brought them under Yahuah's rulership. He had the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuah. He understood it. He said, listen, Yahuah, take not your Ruach HaKodesh away from me. He knew what it meant to have Yahuah's spirit away from him. He understood it. He saw what it did to Shaul. Shaul was crazy, nuts, killing priests, pursuing David, lying, throwing javelins. Listen, without the Ruach HaKodesh, Dawid knew. Yahuah established the kingdom. Yahuah established the kingdom and established the temple, a place where he could worship, where his people could worship him, and as long as they obeyed him and didn't put any other else before him, they kept his commandments and his Torah, he would be their El. He would be their Yahuah Zabaoth. He would be their Yahuah of the armies, right? He would subdue their enemies, right? But they pursued other Els. They fell in love with the other nations. They wanted to be like them. They wanted to serve the Els that they served. Shalomah just got so twisted up in these Gentile women putting their Els throughout all the territory of Yahuah. Yahuah's land. Yahuah's land. Shlomo never seen any war because of what his father did. Shlomo served in the splendor of his father. Shlomo never conquered nobody. But Yahuah blessed him because he was David's seed. And because Shlomo understood that he needed wisdom and understanding to lead Yahuah's people. And because Yahuah asked him for whatever he wanted. And he didn't say riches, but he said that I might go out and come in before this people, for who can rule, who can judge this great nation, this great people, this great nation of thine, whom my father and you, by your Ruach HaKodesh in him, caused him subdue everything around him. Now I got this people, and I got all these people that are going to look to me. How can I do this? I need your Ruach. Your Ruach HaKodesh, the Ruach that you put on my father. You gave my father the Ruach of might. Ooh, wow. But I want the Ruach of wisdom and understanding. I don't need to subdue nobody. I just need your wisdom. Shlomo was no scholar. Shlomo didn't go to a university. Shlomo had the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuah. So he put it on the people, and eventually that people, you know the story. Our nation fell because we fell in love with the other nations and their deities. Just like today. You know, we've been taken captivity into a land, and now we've become so assimilated, right? That we love the nation that we're in, and we identify as Americans. Yeah. I'm Hebrew, I ain't American. I live in America, and if you decide you want me to leave, just give me what I need and I'll go. Give me reparations, I'll go. See you later. Bye. See, I'm talking to Bruce now. This is to the Bruce. This is to the nation of Yasharal and Yahudah, whom Yahuah has called me to wake up. Listen, our people. This is what we are. This is what happened. Yahuah wanted to establish a kingdom. Adam and Havah failed miserably. Yahusha needed a people out of a people. So he chose the lineage of Shem, not Yafet, not Ashkenaz, not that lineage. That's Japhet. It's not Shem. Avraham was Shem. Yitzhak was Shem. Yaakov was Shem. He chose a people. A people. Right? Not those that say they are Yahudim, that say they are Jews and are not, and are of the synagogue of Satan. John 3 and 9. I think it's John 3 and 9. Not that. He's raised up a nation of people who he has allowed to go into bondage, in which that bondage has expired. His people have heard his voice. His people have been waking up. His people, which are called by his name, has received Yahusha HaMashiach, who are called by his name. If my people, which are called by my name. Yahusha said, listen, those that hear my voice, those who receive my witness and my testimony. Yahusha said, I have given them thy name. The people that you have called, people that you have chosen, I have given them your name. And by that name, Yah's salvation, Yahusha, every knee that bows and every tongue that swears to that name and receives the Ruach HaKodesh, they are restored to the kingdom order, and they are now participants and are a part of, are in the beloved kingdom of Yahuah. Yeah, right. Else. His name. Through faith in his name. Through faith in his name. So, man of Yah, woman of Yah, it's time for us to recognize that we're else. We who have received his Ruach HaKodesh have signs following. And if you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, then you need the Ruach HaKodesh. And these signs shall follow. These signs shall follow. These signs. Yahusha, let's go into, now we have been in the Besorah, the 1 John, the 3rd chapter in the Besorah, but we're going to look at, again, the idea of the signs that follow. And the signs that follow those who have the Ruach HaKodesh. And if you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, then there is no way in the world these signs are going to ever follow you. If you have not received the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, then these signs are in no way, shape, or form going to follow you, right? They're not going to follow you, right? Okay. Now, we were looking at how in Mark the 16th chapter, right? And we're going to pick up at the 9th verse, right? How that Yahusha had instructed Mary Magdalene to do some things after his resurrection, right? So let's go in. Mark 16 and 9. And when Yahusha, Yah's salvation, was risen early on the first day, Sunday, not the Shabbat, Sunday, right, of the week, he appeared first unto Mary Magdalene. Now, Mary Magdalene, again, we understand that she was that woman that was the prostitute that appeared with Yahusha when he was amongst the Pharisees and they were dining with him and his disciples. And she came in and had some ointment, anointed Yahusha's hair, and anointed his feet and began to wash it with her hair. Pharisees said, man, what you doing with this? Let this unclean woman touch you. Yahushua cast 7 demons out of her. Hallelujah. These signs shall follow them that believe. Yeah, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there, right? He says, of whom he had casted out 7 ruachs, 7 spirits, devils, ruachs, right? Not 7 hasatans, but 7 ruachs, right? Because you know when, listen, let me give you a brief understanding of how the ruachs are in the earth. Now, when the giants produced offsprings, right? The offsprings were ruachs. They were ruachal. They had ruachs, right? And what happened was after the flood, right? All of those that existed in that time perished, right? But you got to know a ruach has to have something to occupy. It has to have something to dwell in, something that it can use, right? A ruach, it has to have something. It has to have something living in order for it to occupy, right? And we know that once the deluge came, right? And Noah and his family emerged from the ark, right? We know that the 3 sons replenished the earth, right? But we also know that there were ruachs attached to what they did by their yielding of their vessels. Oh, yeah. The sons of Ham, the sons of Cush, Tower of Babel. Listen, Read the book. There were Ruachs in the earth. They were the descendants of the fallen angels. They didn't die in a flood. You can't flood a Ruach to death. You can't flood a Ruach. So anyway, he casted out 7 devils, right? Not 7 Hasatans, demons. And she went and told them that had been with him as they mourned and wept. So she went and told them. He said, listen, I've seen Yahusha HaMashiach. He's risen, right? They crying and weeping, right? And they, when they had heard that he was alive and had been seen of her, they didn't believe it, right? They didn't believe it, right? Why? They didn't have the Ruach of truth. They didn't have the Ruach of truth. Listen, you got to have the Ruach HaKodesh of truth in order to believe on him, to continue in him. Now listen, there's a degree of Ruach, there's a degree of emunah that you have to have in order to receive the witness of the Besorah, to receive Yeshua. But in order to maintain that Yeshua, you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh. It's the Ruach of truth. The Ruach HaKodesh is the Ruach of truth. It's the Ruach that's going to lead you and guide you in truth. He is truth. They didn't believe it. They didn't believe it. Right? Now, what caused their emunah was when they seen it. Because the eyes don't require faith. The eyes just require having saw. That's why that's why Yahusha had to appear before them. That's why Yahusha said unto them, you see me now, and the world see me, and they ain't gonna see me. You see me now, and you ain't gonna see me, but you're going to see me again, because you're going to need to see me again in order to you establish emunah in that I've been resurrected afterwards. And then you're going to need to receive the Ruach HaKodesh to even begin to understand what's taken place. And then after I leave and the Ruach HaKodesh leaves with me, you're going to still have to go in and wait until you're endowed with the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, I'm so glad that I have the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. You just don't understand. I am so glad that I have the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit, the Ruach of Yahuah, the Ruach of wisdom, the Ruach of understanding, the Ruach of counsel, the Ruach of might, the Ruach of knowledge and the fear of Yahuah. Listen, I'm so glad that he has given me his Ruach HaKodesh. When I asked him for it, he freely gave. I'm so glad that I cannot be plucked out of his hands. I'm so glad that I cannot be taken from him. I'm so glad that he has made me an El. He has seated me together in heavenly places in Yahusha HaMashiach. Listen, I am glad that I understand. See, I couldn't have received this without having received the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't do this without the Ruach HaKodesh. And you can't be so caught up in teaching people stuff that they ain't gonna even be able to grasp without the Ruach HaKodesh. Let me go on, because I gotta get through the lesson. I gotta go on. So, they didn't believe her, right? Afterwards, he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat and upbraided them for their unbelief. He upbraided them for his unbelief. Now, we looked at that word of upbraided, right? We looked at that, right? And that word upbraided in the Hebrew, right? Excuse me, not the Hebrew, but the Greek, because this is the renewed covenant in Greek. It means to reproach, to revile them, right? He reviled them. He's like, why did you receive her witness? Why did you receive her witness? Why would you believe that she's lied to you about this? Why? He upbraided them with their unbelief and how hard of heart they were. They had to have the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't love without the Ruach HaKodesh. They knew Mary Magdalene. They knew she loved the HaMashiach. They knew that she would never lie about, they should have known that she would never lie about Yahusha Mashiach, but there was a heart in their hearts. He upbraided them because of their unbelief, because of the hardness of their hearts, right? Because they believed not them that had seen him. They didn't believe him. They didn't believe them that seen him. They didn't believe him. They didn't believe him. They needed the Ruach HaKodesh. See, their emunah was before, while Yahushua was on the earth, they had his example. They had the physical eyewitnesses accounts of the miracles. That's why he said, believe me for my miracles, or believe me for what I say, but in either way, believe me. Yahusha spoke the truth to them, and he demonstrated the Torah to them. Yahusha tells them in Yahuah the 14th chapter, he said, listen, believe on me, right? He said, I'm going to go, and you're going to have sorrow. When I leave, you're going to be scattered. But I'm telling you, I'm coming again. I'm going to come back and see you. I am going to come back and visit you. I got to go to my Father first, but I'm going to come back. He had to go to the Father. After the resurrection, he told Mary, don't touch me. Don't touch me, Mary. Don't touch me. I got to send to our Father. See, I got to sprinkle the blood that I have for the eternal covenant on the altar of the Shalomah. And then after I come back, oh yeah, you can put your hands on me, you can hug me. Listen, if you need to, you can stick your hands in my side, in my fingers, and your fingers in my hands. Listen, you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh to conceive, to understand this. They did not. But Yahusha said, you should have listened to her because she is an eyewitness of what I have been resurrected. She heard me. She talked to me. I told her to tell you to go to Galilee. But you didn't believe her. He appeared. They did not have to release emunah because they had him before him. Yahusha says, he says, listen, you have the Ruach HaKodesh with you. But listen, he's going to be in you. That's John 14. I think that's John 14. Yahusha was the Ruach HaKodesh, all power in the earth and from the Shamayim with them, right? He was the spirit of truth with them. Well, as long as he was with them, the Ruach HaKodesh without measure was before them, right? All they had to do was receive his witness. They saw the miracles. Listen, right? They saw that he raised Lazarus from the dead. Yahusha said that he had purposely waited, because he could have healed Lazarus on the spot, but it was necessary that they understood that he was the resurrection and the life, that he would have all power. Yahusha, they couldn't believe because they didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh. That's why for us who have never had a miracle, who have never seen Yahusha do a miracle, never physically, bodily observed Yahusha feed 5,000 from 3 fish and 5 loaves of bread, who have never seen Yahusha open a man's eyes that was blind, who never seen Yahusha speak to a man and tell him to get up and walk, who had never heard Yahusha stand up in the temple, in the synagogue, and find words written and begin to read from the prophet Isaiah. Never. But they did. They saw him raise Lazarus from the dead. They knew he had been in the grave for 4 days. They knew that he was in that grave for 4 days. They didn't believe him. Philip said, listen, let's go on over to them because, the Jews trying to kill him. We're going to die too. Let's go. You die with him. Listen. Yahusha said they should have believed him. He upbraided them for their unbelief, their hardness of their hearts. Right? Then he says in the 15th verse, and he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the Besorah to every creature. Right? Go everywhere. Right? Go everywhere where we have been scattered. Go everywhere where we have been dispersed among the nations. Go everywhere that we, your people, are scattered. Go everywhere into the world and preach the Besorah, the Torah. Teach people that Yeshua and the plan of Yahuah to establish his kingdom and his elves in the earth has been made possible through the blood of Yahusha HaMashiach. Let them know that Yahuah is going to restore the order. He's calling you to inform his people that he is going to restore his order. Keep the commandments. Keep the commandments. Keep the Torah. Walk in obedience. Walk in the love of the Ruach HaKodesh. Walk in the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. Keep the Torah of truth. Right? He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. He that believeth. Now listen, he that believes, he who has emunah, right? He that believes has emunah shall be saved. Now listen. Let's do this real quick. Let's go to Yehukanan, right? Yehukanan. We're gonna look at the same thing that happened in Yehukanan, right? Real quick. That's John. Real quick, because we're going to get to where we need to go. He says, let's go to John 20. Yeah, John 20. John 20 and 19. And it came to pass, Yehukanan, 20th chapter, 19th verse, the same day at the evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled, for fear of the Jews, fear of the Yahudim, fear of the Pharisees, fear of the Sadducees, came Yahusha HaMashiach and stood in the midst of them and said unto them, peace be unto you. Right? It's the same event, same time, same occurrence, right? And then Yahusha, and then said Yahusha unto them, no, verse 20. And when he had so said, he showed unto him his hands and his side. Then were the disciples glad when they saw him. Now, Yehukanan, in in Mark's rendition, he never says anything about them showing his hands and his sides, but that was the evidence. He says in Mark that they upbraided him, right? He said in Mark that he'd upbraided them for the hardness of their hearts, right? And after he was risen, upbraiding them after his heart and not believing on him after he was risen, right? And he said unto them, go ye into the world and preach, right? That's what he said, right? But Yahuah said that, and when he had said, he showed unto them his hands and his side, right? Now, that's why they believed that he was resurrected. He didn't receive the witness of the woman. He didn't receive the witness of the others that came that was in Yahuah. I think it's Yahuah says where he was walking and Mary. No, I think that was Luke's account. Yeah, Luke says how Yahusha was walking and how he met some people along the way, and how in being with them, he was talking to them about Yahusha, because they were saying, well, you haven't heard about the resurrection, because he had hid himself from them. He didn't make himself visibly aware of by them, right? So what Yahusha was resurrected, he was still Yahusha. But Yahusha had a way of cloaking himself from them to be able to discern who he was, right? You know, it's the same thing of, you know, angels coming in. He had a way of presenting himself that they did not recognize him, right? Same thing in you and the Besorah that is described to Luke, right? So it says here, Yahusha said unto them, he said, behold my hands and put your hands in my sides. And at that point, they said they were glad when they saw the Adonai. And then Yahusha said unto them, peace be unto you, as my Father hath sent me, so have I sent you. Right? Now that's what Yahusha's saying now. Then he says unto them, then when he had said this, he breathed on them, and they received the Ruach HaKodesh. So Yahusha, right, because he knew that, listen, they believed on him because they seen him. But Yahusha had to prepare them for 40 days. And in order to prepare them, he had to breathe on them, and they had to receive the Ruach HaKodesh in order to be able to establish them in this emunah, right, that would take them from there to the day of Pentecost, right, to the time in which the Ruach HaKodesh would descend upon them, right, and they would begin to preach the Besorah. They didn't do it until then. Listen, Yahusha spent the next 40 days ministering to the disciples. He says, and receive ye the Ruach HaKodesh. Whosoever sins you remit, they shall be remit unto them. And whosoever sins they and that's all he's saying is whoever sins you forgive in Yahushua HaMashiach, because Yahushua HaMashiach is the forgiver of sins. It ain't like I can say, oh yeah, you forgiven for sins because of me. No, you're forgiven from sins because of Yahushua HaMashiach's blood. Listen, you receive the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, your sins are forgiven because he's forgiven your sins. Now, you need the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh. Receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh. It is yours as a gift. Do you want it? And most people are going to say yes. And they receive the Ruach HaKodesh, which now gives you the capacity to understand everything Yahusha says and has taught in the Torah and the Besorah, and to walk with the same Ruach of love that he has. Okay, so let's go. So we know that he told them to receive the Ruach HaKodesh, and then he said to them, and then he says, he says unto them, it says, receive your Ruach, and then you said, peace I give thee. He shewed them, right? He says, peace be unto you, the Father. He says, as the Father has sent me, so I send you in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? To be witnesses, right? That's the same thing that is in Mark. So there's nothing different. There's certain things that are not recorded. And again, Mark is John Mark, which is the cousin of Barnabas, which is dictating this from someone else's memory or account, where Yahuah is an eyewitness account of what Yahusha had done. Now, Yahuah only chose to put certain things in because he knew that those things were for your emunah, right? Because he says in that 20th chapter of St. John, the 30th verse, he says, many other signs truly did Yahusha HaMashiach in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written that ye might believe that Yahusha HaMashiach is the son of Elohiym, right? And believing ye might have Ruach emunah, Ruach life, right? Through him, right? Because through Yahusha HaMashiach, you receive the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the life of Yahuah, right? So in Mark's account, you don't get that because Mark is just giving his second-hand account of someone that gave it to him. Maybe even third or fourth-hand account for all we know, but it was recorded and added, right? So it says here, where's it? He says, in the 15th verse, he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the Besorah to every creature. Now, that's the commission, but they weren't to do that until they received the Ruach HaKodesh, right? He says, and he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. Everyone that believes on the Besorah of truth and receive the Ruach HaKodesh, the baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh, right? He that believeth shall be saved, and he that don't believe shall be damned. So it ain't just talking about having emunah, right? It's not even just talking about believing, right? Because the disciples believed on Yahusha HaMashiach, right? While he was living, he told them that he would see him again. But when Mary Magdalene came to him, they said, oh, well, we don't believe it. And they was hard to heart. Yahusha upbraided them. Upbraided them because they are hardness of heart, because they didn't believe, right? So the belief has to be more than just seeing, right? Because the seeing alone, the experience of having just to have the emunah without something has to come as a result of the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh is the Ruach of truth. It's the Ruach of truth. And the Ruach of truth is the revelation of the truth, right? It is what it is, the Ruach of truth. Now, let's get into this. Now, it says here, right? And these signs shall follow them that believe. Now, the signs follow them that have the Ruach HaKodesh. It's not just them that believe, because the sign of the Ruach HaKodesh is the power of the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh is a Ruach of might, a Ruach of dunamos, exousia, right? It's power, it's authority, right? These signs shall follow them that have the Ruach HaKodesh. Because you're going to be baptized. He that believed is baptized with the Ruach HaKodesh. So you got to have the Ruach. Listen. Wow, okay. I could have just typed it in there. Probably should have been quicker. Yahuah says in the first chapter of the 33rd verse, and I knew him not, but he that sent me, Yahuah, sent me to baptize with water. The same said unto me, on whom thou shalt see the Ruach HaKodesh descending and remaining on him, the same is he that baptizes with the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh. So, when we see Yahuah, or when we see John Mark suggests that these signs follow them to believe, they have to believe and be baptized with the Ruach HaKodesh. They just ain't believing in going down as into water as a sinner and coming up as a wet sinner. Had the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, Yahusha went into the water, and then he came out of the water. But before he got out, he had the Ruach HaKodesh. He had received the promise of the Father. You have to receive the promise of the Father. Listen, that's why when you baptize someone in the name of Yahusha, you take them down and you baptize them when they come up, right? You should ask, listen, do you receive the Ruach HaKodesh, Yahuwah's power to be sons? And if they say yes, then you lay hands on them and have them receive the Ruach HaKodesh. You do it like Yahusha did it. Yahusha received it then. You see, Yahuah just paved the way. He said, look, you need to repent. You need to repent for your sins. But you still need to come to him. You need to come to him and receive the baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, and these signs shall follow them that have the Ruach HaKodesh. In my name, they shall cast out devils. Right? Yahushua cast out 7 devils from Mary Magdalene. Yahushua casted out 7 devils that was in Mary Magdalene. How did he do this? Because he was just Yahushua? No, because Yahushua received the Ruach HaKodesh in earthen vessels without measure. He was the son of Adam. He was the second Adam. He was born from the dust of the earth because he was born from a woman and his father was his seed, Yahuah. And his father was his seed, and his father instructed him to uphold all things. So Yahushua went and was baptized, and Yahushua received the Ruach HaKodesh without measure. And Yahushua was going to baptize his disciples without the Ruach HaKodesh. You know, Yahushua, remember when Yahushua sent his disciples? And Yahushua went to the disciples, and he gave them instructions. Whoever receive you, you receive the word, receive you, command the blessings on them in the house, and who don't shake the dust from your feet. He said, but go out and do the work. So what they did was they went out and did exactly what Yahushua did. They came back and said, look, Yahushua, man, we came back, man, everything that you did, we did. Wasn't because they had the Ruach HaKodesh. And because Yahushua had power, all power in the arrests. And Yahushua had already given them the authority to say, go do what I do. Yahushua was in the earth. Yahushua said, listen, I'm in the earth, right? But when I leave, the Comforter will come, right? But as long as I'm here, the Comforter is here. Because I have all power in the heavens, Shamaim, and the arrests. I have authority to operate in the kingdom of Elohiym on the earth. I am the kingdom of Yahuah. I am his kingdom come. The Ruach HaKodesh in me is establishing the kingdom of Yahuah in the earth, and I am calling those in Yasharah and Yahudah who we have a covenant with to come and receive this word, this Besorah, and accept it and receive it, because my Father has chosen you, and receive this Besorah, receive this Torah, right, and receive this Ruach HaKodesh, and these signs are going to follow you. You're going to cast out devils, right, you're going to speak with new tongues. You're going to speak with new tongues? Listen, that is a sign of the Ruach HaKodesh. Somebody said, well, I don't have to speak in tongues. Well, the tongues that he was speaking about was a spiritual tongue. Yeah, it was a spiritual tongue. It was a natural tongue. Listen, I'm going to tell you. I think I told the story real quick. I'm going to tell it real quick again. When I was I received the Ruach HaKodesh as a young man, and I used to pray in the Ruach HaKodesh as a young man, right? I was in the Christian church, but I wasn't a Christian in the sense that I understood and identified with Christianity as much as I identified and connected with the Torah of truth. When I wanted the Ruach HaKodesh, I wanted the Ruach HaKodesh as it was recorded in the book of Acts, right? So when I prayed, I said, Yahuah, if this is Ruach HaKodesh, I want it. So as a young man, I was in my room and I prayed, and Ruach HaKodesh came on me in my room, and I began to speak in other tongues, right? As this Ruach HaKodesh gave me utterance, and I had been speaking in tongues forever. Even in the Christian church before, I was speaking in tongues. I listened, it's just to get to the Ruach HaKodesh that I've always had. Now listen, there was times that I've wandered away from the truth, but I'm in his hands because in my heart I've always wanted to do the will of Yahuah. And that's why there was a time when I would never ever really go way out of the, I just couldn't, because it was a Ruach HaKodesh in me. Well, I say that to say this. There was a time when, and I was a minister under a pastor in I think it was a Baptist kind of something. Anyway, he had this church that he was asked to go visit. I'm like, okay. He said, well, I want you to go with me, because he used to use me in his church. And, I did everything by the Ruach HaKodesh. I preach a message. When the Ruach HaKodesh gave me, I give it to the people, right? I was never the kind of person like, okay, let me plan out this. I got at it. So I will get there and say, well, what you want me to say? You says, preach on this. And then I would preach on that, right? Well, every time I did, the Ruach HaKodesh would come and it would be a blessing to the church, minister, and all that. So, I went with him to this church. It was a Hispanic church. Everybody was speaking in Spanish. I don't know Spanish, right? He didn't know Spanish. His pastor knew English, but he wanted us to be there, and support him and stuff. I was like, okay. So he had up there and he preached the message, and then afterwards, he asked me to come up. He said, would you come up and pray for the people? I'm like, yeah, sure. I get up and I'm like, well, I don't know what to say, and these people ain't gonna really understand what I'm saying. So, I'm just going to pray in the Ruach HaKodesh. Well, that's what I did. I started praying in the Ruach HaKodesh, out loud. And I lay hands on people praying in the Ruach HaKodesh, praying in the Ruach HaKodesh. People like literally excited beyond measure, right? And I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, praise Yahuah. Praise Yahuah. So I finish, and then I go over and this pastor praising Yahuah, jumping up and down with the rest of the people. They're excited about you. And, he come over to me. He's like, hey, you speak Spanish. You speak Spanish. I said, no, I don't speak Spanish, man. He said, yeah, no, you speak Spanish. You spoke Spanish to everybody in here. And you said such and such and such. He said, I said something like how the rule that by the Spirit of Yahuah, he was going to cause their assembly to flourish and as they walk in something, and I don't remember, I can't remember all of it. And he's like, oh, so, no, and they were all like, you speak. Listen, the Ruach HaKodesh will do whatever he wants to do, right? I'm just crazy enough to believe that. I just know it. Yeah, I know it. I know this. I know. Listen, I know. Just like I believe Yahusha HaMashiach and Yahuah can take me and have me preach a word and physically pick me up and move me to a whole nother place in the country. He did it with Philip. Listen, Philip, the Ethiopian eunuch was praying to Yahuah. And he was praying, and reading the word, and Yahuah had Philip go by. And Philip went by, and Yahuah, urged Philip, the eunuch. The eunuch was like, he says, Philip was, I'm paraphrasing, says, hey, so what you looking at? He says, well, I'm here, I'm looking in the word, and I'm reading from Isaiah, but I need somebody to teach me what's being said. And Philip began to preach to him Yahusha HaMashiach from Isaiah. And then he baptized this eunuch, and then after he did, he left, and then Yahuah physically took him and removed him from his place. He was caught up in the Ruach. Taken somewhere else. Yahuah teleported him. He teleported him. Listen, Yahuah teleported him. See, listen. See, when you begin to realize what the Ruach HaKodesh capability is in you, listen, that's why these devils don't want you to know who you are. They don't want you to know who you are. See, y'all just listen to that and think that's a nice story. No, that's a true reality. Listen, I believe in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I could be here today in California tomorrow if Yahuah called me to be there because somebody was earnestly needing to take me from here and put me in Croatia. And then take me back. Listen, this is Yahuah's Ruach. He does it by the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen. He says, you will speak with new tongues. So that's my new tongue story, right? Now that happened. That happens. That was happening. I was in a Christian church. But again, to me, it wasn't Christianity. It was the Besorah of truth. It was always the Torah. It was always the word of Yahuah. I always clung to the word of Yahuah. I was always a fish out of water in every church. I've been in every denomination, just a fish out of water, man. I'm just like, wait a minute, what are you doing? What are you saying? That's not Torah. That's not Bible. I don't understand that. It doesn't matter if it was Church of God in Christ, Church of God by faith, First Assemblies, the Baptist Church, the Methodist Church, the Amein Church. Listen, the non-denominational church. Listen, they were all of them. I mean, I remember being in a non-denominational church maybe about 7 years ago, right? It was in the denominational church. And, we went, because, I'm thinking, man, I probably should try to go to church again. Cause, a whole long time, I just didn't go. And, but me, I stay in the Word. Kept reading the Word, studying the Word every morning. I would drive an hour and a half to work, and I'd listen to the Besorah all the way there and all the way home. I would pray in the Ruach HaKodesh while I was traveling. Oh, yes, right? So I went back, and I said, okay, well, let me go. Let me go to the church. Got to church, and pastor's preaching. He was teaching, he was teaching from the Word, and then this idiot got on and said something about how medical science is a gift of Yahuah. I'm like, huh? So I'm listening because I'm listening, right? And then he said, stem cell research. Who's to say that Yahuah is not who's to say Yahuah is not behind stem cell research? And from my Ruach, I said, what? I mean, I physically said it in the congregation. I said, let's get out of here. I said, no, I can't do this. I can't do it. So I couldn't do it. So, everything I received from the Ruach HaKodesh, I received from the Ruach HaKodesh. But these signs follow. Right? So I speak with new tongues. I speak with tongues all the time. I sing in tongues. Sometimes I just strike out in a melody in the Ruach HaKodesh in tongues. Biarasoro turu kiandoye yara 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 kuye biango kushuturundi yara yara yara. Listen, I just go. I'm the Ruach. I just go. The Ruach HaKodesh, I just sing, right? But these signs follow, right? He says, listen, these signs will follow them and believe. He says, just take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. Listen, I know somewhere along the line I done took some deadly things. Yeah, I know there's been times that I have had too much to drink. Trying to kill me. Trying to kill me, but Yahuah, who is rich in mercy, wherewith he loved me, and yet when I was a sinner, he died for me. Listen, there was one time, right, that foolish, and again, listen, I'm telling you, Yahuah never has taken. He has never allowed me to be plucked out of his hands. I must be his yakad. I mean, listen, all I can say is I hugged the toilet, hurling for hours. Should have died. And I told Yahuah, I'll never do it again, Yahuah. I'll never do it again. Never. Well, I did it one more time, but it was a huge gap. But that last night was it. I never did it again after that. No, because I remembered. No. So, listen. You can drink any deadly things that and I think you too. Also, too. Listen. I said this last message, but I'm gonna say it again. Listen, right? If you were in Yahuah Hamashiach and you just came into this awakening and you've received this Ruach HaKodesh, right? And say, for instance, you took the plunge, you got the jab before, right? Listen, if you received this Ruach HaKodesh, you sealed. There's no serpent, no sting, no prick, no nothing, right? Now listen, now having received Yahusha and Yahuah, right, and have received this Ruach HaKodesh, you decide to get a booster, right? Guess what? Then you stuck, right? You're gonna be stuck. Yeah, you're gonna be stuck. You're gonna be stuck because we don't trust in that. We don't trust in that. Okay. We trust in Yahuah's Ruach HaKodesh. And the Ruach HaKodesh, I know had to tell you, no, don't do it. You don't need to do that. You don't need that. If you got the Ruach HaKodesh, you don't need that. If you don't got the Ruach HaKodesh, and if say, oh yeah, you got to get that shot, yeah, I think that's when you just go ahead and get it because you done made your choice anyway. Okay, enough of that. He said, he said, you shall lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. You shall lay hands on the sick and shall recover. So these signs follow them. They believe these signs, right? These physical things are manifestations of the Ruach power that is in you by the Ruach HaKodesh. Now, there's something that I want to look at too. We got to look at as well, right? So when we consider the Ruach HaKodesh, right, we have to understand that the Ruach HaKodesh is the Ruach HaKodesh of love. Yahusha said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, right? As I've kept the Father's commandment. Yahuah, the Father says, he shows mercies unto thousands of them that love him and keep his commandments. If you have the Ruach HaKodesh, you have the Ruach HaKodesh of love. You have Yahuah's love in you, right? You have his love in you. Where are we trying to go here? We're going to go in let's look. Yeah, let's go here. No, let's look at Acts real quick because I want to say something in reference to Acts. The apostles had to receive the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And we know that Yahusha said that the signs will follow them that believe, right? Having received the Ruach HaKodesh. Now we understand on the day of Pentecost, Peter stood up, and so did all the rest of the people that were in that upper room, manifested the Ruach HaKodesh in speaking in tongues. Now, in the tongues that were spoken at the time that Yahusha, at the time that Peter and the apostles and those that were there were speaking it, they were literally speaking in other languages that were not theirs, which they had no history with. They did not understand these languages, but the Ruach HaKodesh, who had to maximize, right, the effectiveness of the Besorah, of the message that Peter was preaching. It was being preached, right, and heard of everybody in their own language as Peter began to declare it by the Ruach HaKodesh. Peter wasn't the only one speaking that message. You had people in other languages hearing that message in their own language. Now, these were Hebrews who had been scattered, who kept the Passover, who kept the feast days, who kept Pentecost, who adhered to the Torah that they had received from their fathers that had been passed down, but had just left the land. They were no longer living in Jerusalem. After the first temple's destruction, our people were taken into captivity into Babylon. And in Babylon, they were there for like 70 years, but afterwards they left. They were let go, among which a majority of them ended up back in Jerusalem, but others went to other areas, right? Because they wanted to go where they could keep their Torah and not have to worry about what was occurring in Jerusalem all the time, right? So they figured they'd go. And they spread it out, right? And when they spread it out, they took the Torah with them. They took Hamashiach's, they took Yahush's Torah, Hamashiach, the Word made flesh. They took Yahuah's Torah and they dispersed with it. When they came back to the feast days, the Pentecost, right? They came back having spoken and learned and become a part of a culture of people that spoke a certain language, but they maintained their history, their culture, and the Torah, right? So they're all here, and all of a sudden, they're all hearing this message that Peter and all these people are declaring, right, in their own language, right? So Peter, as he began to preach this message, right? The people says unto him, and when they had heard, they were pricked, because that's what the Ruach HaKodesh does. It convicts of sin. The pricking is the conviction of sin, right? They were pricked in their hearts. They were convicted of their sins, and said unto Peter and to the rest of the apostles. Why? Because they were all preaching and teaching and declaring the same thing that Peter was declaring in their own language, right? He said, what shall we do, right? In their language, right? And Peter said unto them, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach for the remission of their sins, and receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, right? So, repent, right? Be baptized, and receive the baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh. Receive the baptism of the Ruach. So, there's a baptizing to repentance, right? In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, and then there's a baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh, the gift, right? Right? That's what you got to do, right? Okay? He says, for the promise is unto you and your children. The promise. The promise to restore the kingdom of Yahuah in the earth. The restoration of the kingdom is the restoration of Yahuah having his elves have dominion in the Eretz. That's the establishment of the kingdom. That's what was the trial run, if you could say trial run, which David subdued the earth under Yahuah's authority and made everyone subject to Yahuah, right? They paid tribute to Yahuah, right? And Shalomah, right, benefited off that tribute. But Shalomah actually put the people in a position of vulnerability by marrying all of these foreign women and allowing them to bring their elves, their gods, into the nation, into the land of Yasharah and Yehuda, and establish their kingdoms, their Ruachs. Peter said unto them, repent and be baptized, right? For the promise is unto you and your children, and to all them that are afar off. All of them that are far off. Listen, you got people that are far off in Yahuah. Let's look at that, afar off. What does he mean? Let's look at afar in the Greek.
Strong's G, 1519. Ice.
So that means towards, among, towards. Afar off, meaning out of the way. There's a scriptures that says something in reference to this untoward generation. I think it's in Ephesians where Paul speaks of the untoward generation, or the generation that's going in the opposite direction of the direction they should be going in, right? So he says afar off, and that Greek word for off is a great way. So these people who have been towards afar off, which means that these people who have allowed themselves to go away from obedience to the Torah of truth and are far away, right? So he says, to far off, as many as Yahuah, Elohiym shall call. So, to all those that Yahuah has called, who Yahuah has chosen. Listen. He says, and if many other words did he testify and exhort, saying, save yourself from this untoward generation. Right? Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Save yourself through this untoward generation. He said afar off means towards, right? He says to this untoward generation, right? He says, and they were gladly received the Besorah, and they were baptized. So they received the baptism of water, and they received the baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And the same day, these were added, about 3,000 to the church, right? And they continue steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship in the breaking of bread and of prayer, right? And fear came upon every soul, and many wonders. These signs shall follow them that believe. Yahusha said, in my name they shall cast out devils. They will speak with new tongues. They take up any serpents, and drink anything, and shall deadly thing, and shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. Right? They shall continue steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and the breaking of bread and in prayer. And fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs. Wonders. Let's look at that Greek word, wonders. That Greek word, wonders, is
Strong's G 5059. Teras.
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 That word teras is miracles, right? Teras. So there's many miracles, right? Teras. There's many miracles. There's teras. There's signs. What is the word for signs? Greek word for signs.
Strong's G 4592. Semayon.
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 Semayon. It's the word that means a mark. A mark, a sign, a token, right? A seal. These things were done by those who were sealed by the Ruach HaKodesh that bear the mark of Yahuah and Yahusha. And it's a sign, it's a mark that they had done this, right? Because it follows them. Hallelujah. Right. So, we can go through Acts and we can continue to come on the signs and the wonders that they did. Now, they said that they did many of them, but there's no way in the world that we could record them all. We have to understand that what was recorded was there so that we would understand that we are to do the same things. Right? Right? We're not supposed to go to pharmakia. Definition. Let's do this. Definitions. Okay, let me do this. Pharmacy. The science or practice of the preparation of the dispensing of medicine, right? Let's do this. Etymology. Etymology. Online. And yeah. No, I don't want that. I just want the. Let's go back. Let's do this. Etymology. Etymology of definitions. Let's do this. No, I don't need the definition. I need... Okay. What I'm getting at is that with the Ruach HaKodesh, we are to do what the heathens... We are to perform the work of Yahuah. We are not to follow after the way of the heathens. Right? Why? Because we have his Ruach HaKodesh. Right? We have his Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Okay. Let me see. Okay. This is what it is. It is from pharmakeus, right? To prepare of drugs. It is also of poisoners. With the word pharmacology, pharmacy. A sorcerer. Sorcerer. Right? From pharmacon, a drug, a poison, a proliferer, charm, spell, enchantment, pharmacy, pharmakia. Oh man, this Besorah, this Ruach. Listen. Etymology of the word pharmacy. It's from pharmakeus, to prepare of drugs, a poisoner, a sorcerer, right? This is the etymology of the word. I mean, this is not even me. This is online etymology dictionary. I ain't making this up, right? Right, but we're supposed to believe that they're trying to give us trying to give us a vaccine that they have developed in their pharmakeas, right? A poisoner, a sorcerer, right? A pillater, a charmer, a spell or enchantment. Pharmakia. Look at it. Let's do this. Let's look at the etymology of the word medicine. Let's look at the word Medicine. How you say medicine? medicine, I think, right? Medicine. Yeah, that's right. Pharmakia, the word medicine. Okay, so medicine is a cure, a healing, right? Substance used in treatment of a disease, right? What's the word? Healing, treatment, cure, the healing arts. All right. So the practice of healing, the practice of preventing disease, right? The practice of curing or alleviating, right? Right? By means of pharmakia. Y'all don't hear me. By means of pharmacia, right? By means of, right, poisons, drugs, sorcerer, right? Charms, spells, and enchantments. See, we supposed to lay hands on the sick. Listen, these signs should follow them that believe, right? All right, let me go a little bit further in. Let me go to, this one may be a little bit longer, but we understand, right? Let's go here. We're going to start here. Let's go to Galatians, the 5th chapter, 16th verse. Now, we understand that the signs follow them to believe, right? The signs follow them to believe. These things follow us, right? These things are direct demonstrations of the power, right? These are physical manifestations of Yahuwah's power at work in you that follow you, right? But there are characteristics of this Ruach HaKodesh that are seated in love, right? The love that you only get after having received the Ruach HaKodesh. There is no other way that you can possess, have, or exhibit these characteristics without the Ruach HaKodesh, right? So, the signs that follow are evident of the power of the Ruach HaKodesh in you to do a certain thing, right? The Ruach HaKodesh in love exhibits itself in its character of you, right? You like Yahusha Mashiach character, right? So he said, listen, let's go to 16, Galatians 15 and 16. He says, I say, walk in the Ruach HaKodesh, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So if you walk in the Ruach HaKodesh, you ain't going to fulfill the lust of the flesh. Listen, if you walk in the Ruach HaKodesh, you ain't going to sin, because you can't sin, because his spirit is in you, right? Right? He says, for the flesh is against the Ruach, and the Ruach against the flesh, and these are contrary one to another, and they cannot, contrary one to another, that ye cannot do the things that you would. So listen, there's a struggle. You can't do the things that the flesh wants, and do the things that the Ruach want, because they're both They're conflict. They're conflict one to another. You're going to either have to do what the flesh wants, or you're going to walk in the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuah. That's just it. Either you're going to walk in the Ruach of Yahuah, or you're going to walk in the Ruach of Hasatan. Right? The difference is the Ruach of Hasatan is lust. The Ruach of Yahuah is the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach of spirit of life in Christ. The spirit of life. The spirit of love. The Ruach of love. Right? He said, listen. But if ye be led by the Ruach HaKodesh, ye are not under the law. Listen, if you're led by the Ruach HaKodesh, you're not under the law, because you're not under sin. It doesn't mean that you don't keep the law. You're just not under the law because you don't sin. Sin is a transgression of the law. If you sin, you are under the law, because sin is a transgression of the law. A law is not a law unless there's a violation to that law, which is sin, and sin is that violation. Right? So, listen. So, if ye be led by the Ruach HaKodesh, you're not under the law, because you are the righteousness of Yahuah and Yahusha. You walk in the law. You're not judged by the law, because you're righteous. You keep it. The law is for those who don't keep it. He says, for the work of the flesh are manifested, and are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, and lasciviousness. And we done been through that before. That word is porno or pornonia, which is adultery, which is fornication. Fornication is pornonia. Pornonia is adultery. It is homosexuality. It is lesbianism. It's sex with animals. It's sex with close relatives. That's all pornonia. That's all fornication. That's all uncleanness. That's all lasciviousness, right? That's idolatry. That's witchcraft. That's hatred. That's variance. That's immolation. That's wrath. There's strife. There's sedition. That's heresies, right? Envy, murder, drunkenness, reviling, and all such that are alike, right? These are the Ruach of Hasatan. Everybody that do these things are under the Ruach HaKodesh. These are the characteristics of those who have the Ruach of Hasatan, who operate under the Ruach HaKodesh. That's why the children of Yahuah and the children of Hasatan are distinct. The children of Yahuah do the will of Yahuah. They keep his Torah. Yahusha said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. If I have kept the Father's commandments, we will keep Yahuah's Torah. We will keep his commandments. And then he says, I command you to love one another. Love in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? Not in the flesh, not in Hasatan, not after the lust of the flesh, not in fornication and adultery and uncleanness and lasciviousness, not in these. These are not the spirit of Yahuah, excuse me. Listen, understand this. He says, envy, murder, drunkenness, reviling, of such the like, of the which I tell you before, and I have also told you in times past, that they that do such things shall not inherit Yahuah's kingdom. Will not be sons of Elohiym, will not be elves of Elohiym, will not be in Yahuah's kingdom on the Eretz. Thy kingdom come. You will not be a part. You don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, and the Ruach HaKodesh is the spirit of truth and the spirit of love. And if you do not have the spirit of truth and the spirit of love, his Ruach HaKodesh, then you aren't in his kingdom. You are not a part of his kingdom. You don't even know anything about his kingdom. Now, listen, right? The Ruach HaKodesh in you is love, right? The Ruach HaKodesh in you is joy. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is peace. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is long suffering. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is gentle. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is goodness. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is emunah. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is meekness. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is temperance, right? Of such there is no law, right? Because the Ruach HaKodesh, the righteousness, the spirit of Yahuah and Yahuah in you gives you the capacity to do these things. There's no law for these things. These things are the characteristics of Yahuah and Yahusha and the Ruach HaKodesh in you. If you can't do these, you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? And if you do have the Ruach HaKodesh, you got to discipline yourself in the Besorah of truth. Right? You got to renew your mind in the Besorah of truth. Listen. We have the Ruach HaKodesh's measure. We have enough to get us to where we need to be in Yahuah. It is enough to identify us to Hasatan and the heavenlies. It is enough to identify the wicked forces in this earth to know that we are different. We are his sons and his daughters. We have received his Ruach HaKodesh. We are of the nation of Yasharal and Yahudah. And if we are Gentiles, we are a part of the nation of Yasharal and Yahudah. Listen. We have a commandment to keep. The commandment is love in the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, you ain't going to love nobody. I don't care how many times you give them a commandment to love them. If they don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, they ain't going to do it. You got to have the Ruach HaKodesh in order to love somebody. To walk in a commandment of love. You just ain't going to do it. It's the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh is long suffering. The Ruach HaKodesh is gentle. He says, listen. And they that are in Hamashiach, them who have his Ruach HaKodesh, me and you and me, we is one. Who used to sing that song? I don't know. It's a worldly song. Loving you. I think it was Heat Wave. Was it Heat Wave? Yeah. Anyway, me and you and me is one. We is one. That's us and the Father. Yahusha and Yahuah in us. The Ruach HaKodesh in us. Right? And that ye have, and they that are Hamashiachs, verse 24 of Galatians 5, have crucified the flesh, right? Crucified the flesh, right? And the affections and lust, right? And if we live, because now we live by the Ruach HaKodesh, let us walk in the Ruach HaKodesh. If we have accepted Yahusha HaMashiach, we are in the way, the truth, and we have received the life, which is the Ruach HaKodesh, the power of the truth, the Ruach of truth, right? We received it with the signs that follow us by power and might, right? We should be demonstrating by our walk in the Ruach HaKodesh these fruits. We should be demonstrating love. We should be demonstrating peace. We should be demonstrating long suffering. We should be demonstrating gentleness. We should be demonstrating goodness. We should be demonstrating faith. We should be demonstrating meekness and temperance, right? Of against such there is no law, right? The law is for fornication and adultery and uncleanness and lasciviousness. The law is for adultery, wickedness, witchcraft, hatred, variance, elimination, illumination, wrath, strife, seditions, and heresies. The law is for envy, murder, drunken, reviling, of which such the like. That's what the law is for. The law is to judge this and to cause those who do it to identify that they're in violation to the Torah. But see, we have the spirit of life in Yahusha HaMashiach. We have the Ruach HaKodesh. We have the spirit of truth, right? There's no law for the spirit of truth. We keep the commandments. We keep the Torah. We walk in the truth of Yahuah. The Torah is truth. The Torah is in us. The entrance of the Torah gives light. It gives understanding to the simple. The Torah of truth. By the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. Listen. If we live in the Ruach HaKodesh, we should walk in the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, let us not be desirous of vain glory, provoking one another to envy, because that's not what we do. Not in the Ruach HaKodesh. Not in the Ruach HaKodesh, not in the spirit of Yahuah and Elohiym, right? Listen, let's do this. Let's look at Ephesians real quick. We almost finished. We're going to go to Ephesians. Ephesians 5 and 8. He says, for ye were sometimes in darkness, right? But ye are now in the Ruach HaKodesh, in Yahuah, in Adonai. Walk in the Ruach HaKodesh. It's the same thing. The light is the Ruach. The light is the revelation of the truth. The Ruach is the revelator. The Ruach is the revealer of truth. The Ruach is light. The Ruach is a revealer. He says, walk as children of the Ruach HaKodesh. For the fruit of the Ruach HaKodesh is... This verse could have easily been written. Ye were children of darkness, but now Ruacho, or Ruach HaKodesh, in Adonai. In Yahusha HaMashiach, you are Ruacho. You have the Ruach HaKodesh. Now walk as children of the Ruach HaKodesh. Children of the Father and of the Son. Els, walk as Els in the earth. Take your dominion. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. The kingdom of Yahuah Elohiym suffers violence on the eretz. Hasatan has brought violence to Yahuwah's kingdom on the eretz. The kingdom suffers violence. The children of Yahuah and Elohiym suffers violence. But the violence now have power to subdue. Right? Because we've received the Ruach HaKodesh. We have now power to subdue in the eretz. He's given us the power. For the fruit of the Ruach HaKodesh is all goodness, and righteousness in the truth, in the Ruach of, listen, that's what I just said. The Ruach HaKodesh is the Ruach of truth. And the Ruach of truth is all goodness, right? Because it is Yahuah and Yahusha in you. It is the Ruach of love. It's obeying the Torah, the Besorah of Yahusha HaMashiach. It is keeping the Torah. It is demonstrating what is good and acceptable. What is the perfect will of Yahuah and Yahuah, the Ruach HaKodesh in you in demonstration. The signs following, the characteristics. If these things be in you, you have everything you need. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's all I have in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. This is Shabbat. And my prayer is Yahuah. that they would receive all those that you have chosen, that you have quickened, that you have chosen to receive this Besorah of truth, that they would receive it, Yahuah, and that they would be made alive by it. In your Ruach HaKodesh, Yahuah, I pray that the words that you have given me, that they have received them in the Ruach and they have kept them. I pray, Yahuah, that they would receive your Ruach HaKodesh if they want it. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Yahuah, I give you praise. I thank you. And I magnify you. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Oh, Yahuah, my strength and my redeemer. Always remember, they that are led by the Ruach HaKodesh, these are the sons and the daughters of Yahuah, Elohiym. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh in order to be else. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh in order for the signs to follow. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh that possess the characteristics of the Ruach. Yahuah, reveal your truth to your people. Listen, that's all I have. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, on this Shabbat, be blessed. And with that, I say Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, and Shabbat Shalom.
Torah Guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.